Okay, so we will come to the back of our mats and let's grab your blanket or towels or whatever it is that you have tonight for some support. And we're gonna just roll it up. If it's a towel and you wanna kind of stack it, all that you want to establish is something that's uniform and that creates some height for us to lay onto. So just establish that with whatever you've got. If you even have a bolster at home, you can use that for sure. And so from here, we'll come forward and I'm gonna lay the roll right at the top of the femur bones. And then before I drop in, I'm gonna turn the toes towards each other and the heels wide. And then lay my ribs down and lay my head down. And you can let the arms either go beside you or I like to crawl them under the low belly. And so just find a way of laying the arms that brings further rest. And Audrey, above and everyone, we mentioned calm in the beginning. This practice, this pose in particular, for me is just like power down button. So just like let yourself lay here on the ground, the belly, the chest, the ear, and I'll cue us to turn the other side of the face down in just a moment. But let yourself really just feel the ground beneath you and feel the invitation of the femur bones, those thigh bones, plugging deep into the socket of the pelvis. And this too is so grounding and quietening for our nervous system. And so let your body just take that in and let yourself feel. There is a lot of energy moving in one direction, but there's also the context of this quiet, deep, downward space. And here also on this call together, just feel into the connection of each other, all of us in our various homes, living rooms, wherever we find ourselves, just dropping into what's quiet and what's still and what's deeply kind. And y'all know sometimes I detour from classical texts, and today I was reading some of Anne Lamott's book on writing, and she was talking about a Mel Brooks routine. And the psychiatrist says to the patient, listen to your broccoli and let the broccoli tell you how to eat it. And so, of course, in her modern Zen way, he was pointing at that place that is deeper beneath, that is intuition. Many of us kind of lost our broccoli when we were kids. This kind of compass, this knowing, this quiet space within. And go ahead and turn the head in the other direction. I'll just read y'all a little bit from this book. It's Bird by Bird. It's all about writing, but it's also about practice. And it's one of the reasons that I love writing so much, is that I can sometimes feel like it drops into that space that is limitless and so profound. She said, you get your intuition back when you make space for it, when you stop the chattering of the rational mind. The rational mind doesn't nourish you. You assume that it gives you the truth because the rational mind is the golden calf that this culture worships. But this isn't necessarily true. Rationality squeezes out much that is rich and juicy and fascinating. Sometimes intuition needs coaxing because intuition is a little shy. But if you try not to crowd it, intuition often wafts up from the soul or subconscious and then becomes a tiny, fitful little flame. It will be blown out by too much compulsion and manic attention, but will burn quietly when watched with gentle concentration. So here in these moments, as we And get calm and get quiet, breathe and listen and find our broccoli. And just let everything else subside for this next hour together, this gift to ourselves and to humanity, really, because there is a ripple in this pond of practice. And take 3 more deep, deep breaths. And feel especially the curve of your low back coming back into existence. Lots of curling in our upper spines, in our necks, which result in a tuck of the tail. So feel how free that can be. And before we shift and move, feel your heart against the floor. And from that sensation, allow an intention or a dedication to rise up for you, for your practice, for this day, for this evening, for this world. Good. And then just gently let the eyes open and bring your hands just outside of the shoulders. And then from there, either place the forehead on the floor, or if it's comfortable, you can place the chin on the floor. And then take the hands behind you and interlace the fingers in the less familiar way, and draw your knuckles straight back. And then maybe lift the hands away from the hips a few times and move slowly, and just let your shoulder blades work into any of those spaces in the upper back that feel held or tight, or anything that arises. Good. And then very gently let the arms drift down towards the sacrum, release the bind, and then back to the shoulders. Start to swim the hands forward and wide, kind of towards a seal variation. So you can all gauge how far you want that to be. So the closer in, obviously, the more curved to your spine. The further away, the gentler. So just feel that perfect place where you get to enjoy this little slope of our spine, again, that is omitted from so much of our sedentary lives. So feel here into the sway, the swing, the saddle. And take 2 more deep breaths there. Good. And then gently press and place the right forearm at a diagonal on the floor in front of you. Bend your left knee, reach back for that foot, and then draw the heel in towards the outer buttocks on the left side. And as you draw it in, start to slide the whole left femur bone back so that you open the hip flexors, the place where that muscle connects to pelvis, to thigh, and flood that space with 1 more deep, deep breath. Good. And then gently release the foot and place the right hand down so that you can rise up enough. And we're going to take our deltoid stretch, so our outer shoulder. Thread the left arm through, but lower the shoulders simultaneously so that you keep as much of a squaring through the shoulders as you can. Now here you may want to prop the head up with something. You may want to bring some padding under the left shoulder. Just check into what exists for you in the left shoulder tonight and arrange yourself comfortably to be with what arises. And as always with our yin poses, we will just get quiet and still and listen and move beyond the rational mind and start to part the voices of the masses that are within us, whether it's conditional, whether it's familial, whether it's cultural, and start to feel that place that is so quiet and deep inside, that is intuitive, that knows, that's wise. It's exactly synonymous with what happens in the yin pose itself. Because we quit using the muscles that are in the way, we are able to bypass that more robust part of our structure and get into fascia, connective tissue, which is so rich. Again, that juicy, fascinating part of our structure. It's the same. And so we move past the noise, whether it's anatomical or in our mind, and feel into what is deep and still and fascinating. And take 3 more breaths here into the outer left shoulder. Good. And then slowly start to slide your right hand in and roll to the left side, keeping the left arm extended. And take the right knee up and over your blanket or bolster, or if it feels better to have it on the blanket or bolster, you can absolutely do that. And as much as you can, slide the knee out so that there's just a little bit of a diagonal in the pelvis. So we're really grounding our twist. And then from there, with the right hand hovering above the left, to start, we'll just reach our arm forward towards the top of the mat. And then watch the hand as you rotate and create a full semicircle. And then pause when you find 180 degrees or a straight line, fingertip to fingertip. And again, if you want to prop the arm up, you can, or you can just let it dangle with gravity. And breathe into the pleural cavity, into that right lung, and its expansion 3-dimensionally in all directions. Feel it open and close. Good, and take 2 more deep breaths here into your twist, top to bottom, full body spiral, everything in between, bringing out the organs, the fascia, all of it. Good. And slowly bring the right arm back. Slide the right leg back and find for a moment your Sphinx pose. And let the heels go wide and the toes turn towards each other, and enjoy again, that gentle slope of the spine, the sway at the low back. I say this over and over again, but it's so beautiful to see on an infant when they're first pressing off the ground, that little divot where the spinal column drops in to the belly. So finding again that place where we are in a healthy spinal situation that can really become anything that we desire, because that is the potential of every moment. And take 2 more deep, deep breaths into the slope of the spine, into the low, soft belly, into the kidneys, at the middle back, the ribs. Just fill the shape with breath. Good. And then from there, take the left forearm at a diagonal, top of the mat. Bend your right knee this time and reach back for it with the right hand and draw the heel in, and then slide the whole thigh bone back. So the whole thing. Point the knee towards the back of the room and you'll feel that opening in the psoas, in the hip flexors. And take 2 more deep breaths into that. Good. And then gently release your foot and lift the left elbow just enough to slide that right arm through. And again, you'll probably be inclined to create an incline, but resist. And crawl the left arm forward and the right arm to the side. And when you find, again, that cozy place, so the yin poses are provocative. I mean, you will feel, but you want to settle into something that's deeply sustainable, that's comfortable enough to really be here for 20 minutes, like without needing to move. So that's kind of a good way to gauge if it's a good spot for you. And if it feels like too much, lift up and prop yourself up. Grab your sweater, grab your pillow, whatever you need. And then lay the head down in whatever way feels good for you. And then as you arrive more fully in the pose, again, just have a sense of those curtains parting, that layer after layer, the more superficial, the overt, as in that which is outermost, just starting to look behind and beneath, both in our physical body and in our mental construct. And so too is this a way to look at our emotional experience, seeing what's dominant, being with it, and maybe curiously peeling back a layer to feel into what is behind and underneath that, and feeling and being with that too. It's kind of like the very fact that the universe is expanding in every second. This practice of what is underneath is an infinite exploration and an incredible anchor for our attention. And can sometimes drop us off at the door to deep, everlasting peace. And take 3 more breaths here. Good. And then slowly rise. And place the left hand down, roll to the right side, and draw that left knee up and over and either onto the floor or the bolster or blanket. and slide it away from you so that, again, you can tilt the pelvic structure. And then with left hand hovering over right to start to, like the arm of the clock, reach out and then up overhead, and keep following the fingers with your gaze, and then slowly let it open up to full 180, one straight line, fingertip to fingertip. And feel the rotation as it exists in your rib cage, in the organ body, in the legs, in the cervical spine, the neck. And just allow the breath to infuse every square inch. Again, if you want to prop that left arm, feel free to do that, or you can just let it hover, or maybe it's slightly touching depending on what's happening in the left shoulder today. And just be with it. Good. Take 2 more deep breaths. And then slowly bring the left hand back in front of, right by the right elbow. Slide the left leg back and come again to center. So come to Sphinx pose for just a breath or 2 or 5, and feel what it is when we finish and complete one side and then the other. Feel the left side of your body meeting the right. Feel the hemispheres of the brain. Feel the corpus callosum between them. Good. And then from there, gently just rise on up. And from here, I want to give you guys some options for our calf stretch today. So you can take your blanket or your towel, and so like for me, I am gonna roll this up something like the size of a grapefruit, the radius of a grapefruit-ish, and then place it right behind the knees. Now if you have knee stuff, and maybe just otherwise you'd prefer to do it this way, we can bring the inner knees to touch, lift one knee, rock the hips forward, and then use the joint of the knee to massage. You guys, yeah, you know what, we should all do this for a minute. So let's on all fours, and then we'll come to the blanket option, and those of us that have knee stuff can stay here and keep exploring. So yeah, if you just tilt forward enough to bring the left knee high up into the meat of the calf muscle on the right. And then when you rock forward and back and kind of side to side, ooh, it is amazing what you can find living in the calf. So, oof, yeah, take your time feeling and massaging and pressing with, again, the right amount of pressure for you today. Good. And sometimes I'll even take the shin so that it's something like perpendicular to the bottom leg and sit back on it. And then you can even tilt side to side using the pressure of your body. Again, knee issue dependent. So just go with what feels good for you. And then we'll come to the other side. So lift here, the right knee And pitch the hips forward, and then just place the joint right into the meat of that left calf. Good. And you can let yourself take any kind of circular or linear or any kind of movement that brings about, wow, a feeling of digging into the information of the calf. This must be years in the making. Oof, lifetimes perhaps. And take some more breaths there, or if the knees were okay, to lay the right shin perpendicular to the left and sit back on it. You can take that version and even rock side to side with it. Good. And then my friends with knee stuff, continue with that one, and the rest of us will enjoy for just a few breaths here a little sit down with the roll of the blanket right into, right into the calves. And again, just let it be an appropriate amount of sensation for you. You can always pitch the torso forward and hold a little bit of your weight up if that feels better. And so just check in. What does your body need today in the name of gentle exploration and kindness, which is always what we're up to. Take one more breath into whatever it is that you're exploring. Good. And then pitch the hips forward and move your blanket. If you have a block here, you may want to bring that closer. And we're gonna come into our hips for Miss Laura. So pigeon pose is kind of one of my favorites. We'll take that for most of us. If you have, again, knee stuff, I know there's a couple of y'all that do. So you can always find your figure four with that foot over the knee and hug it in. Or you can place a block at its middle height, the end of which you'll line up with your ankle, and then you can place the right foot up on top and bow into that. So there's not a lot of pressure in the knee, and you can still get into the hip, and you can do whatever you like with the arms. So pigeon, or if you have knee things, you can find one of the other two variations for others. If you've got them in your toolbox, please let your practice be your own. And then as we do, set yourself up. Create a support for your head with the block or blanket. Make sure that the head feels held in whatever way. Some of you can comfortably take it to the floor, but when there's something holding the weight of the skull, then the shoulders and neck can more fully relax. And so set yourself up in such a way that that is the case. If you're folded forward, that's okay, don't worry about it. Or if you want to prop the head up, even there you can. And just over the course of these next few moments, you will just allow every single exhalation to facilitate more and more softening into the structure of the outer hip. And feel as things part, you get to feel into those places that are sometimes hidden. And oftentimes we're kind of wading through terrain. It feels like layer after layer after layer. And then maybe we get this little glimpse of that place that is without rationality, that is amorphous and non-linear and non-conceptual. Your broccoli. And very gently press yourself up, but move so slowly. We are in the business of healing more than our structure, of finding more than range of motion, healing the nervous system here, finding our calm. And just rock to the left, and you can either windshield wiper the legs, or if you're craving stillness, let the inner knees touch. And feel the space behind your pose, which is so vibrant and alive. Good. And then we'll come to face front and place, this time, the left shin down, and draw the right leg back behind you. Any of my hip variation seekers, please take that, and then slowly make your way right on in. And you can, again, use whatever support, create that structure, the scaffolding for you, your fortress of ease. And as you let go, and as you just tend to the structure in the beginning moments, make sure that you arrive in a place that is quiet and gentle and calm, so that then you can start to pull back the curtains on what's rational in you, until you come into the places again that are juicy, fascinating, brilliant, beyond belief. And let yourself just take the ride that is that process. Sometimes it is really being in the layers of the things, and that's okay too. And that has its own certain kind of curiosity. The layers of the things. So just continue to feel and watch and get quiet and breathe. And to whatever rises up in the next few moments, let yourself hold it, house it, contain it. Let it feel safe. Let it speak to you in its own dance, its own non-verbal, non-conceptual way, and then kind of flutter on, perhaps. Very slowly rise. And again, transit time so slow. Let it get slower and slower as our practice progresses. It's so healing to just push the slow motion button for a while, and you can either take windshield wiper motion or find the stillness of knee to knee, but feel into that alive space following your pose. Good. And then come to face front, and we're gonna come into our hamstring. So we got a few sporty fellas out there, so it can be really helpful to create a little height for your hamstring exploration. So we'll fold something behind you to come sit up on. If you have blocks and you want to use that, that's also totally great. For those of you that have naturally internally rotating legs, then you're fine. I was a dancer and my legs just kind of fly out to the side. So for those of us that have that, if you take a blanket down to the ankles and then wrap one side and then the other under the calves and snug enough to facilitate an internal rotation in the legs. And as you set yourself up, just be mindful, make sure the knee has a tiny bit of a bend, just a little micro bend. And you can just give your upper thigh bone a little rotation. Outer thigh up, inner thigh down. And then other side, same. So a continuation of that pattern. When we're tucking, we're also losing our center, and there's an emphasis on external rotation. So it's really, really therapeutic to find our internal rotation, to feel the inseam, to feel what's centermost. And then from here, start to bow right on down and come into this very slowly, especially my sporty friends. If there's just the tiniest hint of an edge, then pause for a minute, like you were just kind of yearning to hear someone that's speaking really quietly. We're just listening into the back body. And then when things feel safe and there is a way to drop in a little bit more, maybe we do. And just keep working in that way, listening, dialoguing with the edge that arises until you have found your pose. Again, here, if you want to prop the skull up with a block, with a blanket, please feel free. If you want to just hang like a willow branch, also feel free to do that. But see if there's something in you that is reaching or that's tightening, or using the hands of the shoulders and let them really drop to earth. It can be helpful to turn the palms up to just see that the hands are really relaxed. And just take your time coming in, and we'll be here for a few minutes. And again, every little pose, its own meditation. Let yourself watch that process of dropping in, layer after layer, in the physical body, bypassing our muscles straight to the fascia, where the pranamaya kosha lives, where emotion lives very often. And in the mental structures beyond our rationality, and into heart wisdom, which is beyond even 3 dimensions, and into the emotional frequencies and their shape-shifting nature. Just allow yourself to keep dropping, keep looking under and behind whatever is presented, and holding even that too. There is a level of softening that you can experience in this last moment that you have never reached before. Softness everywhere, outside and in, through and through, from mind to heart to body. very slowly rise. Slower and slower every single time. And let the hands drop back behind you and let yourself just drop into the shoulders. Ah. Good. And then slowly lift, and we'll shift the blanket if you have it around the ankles. And we're going to come into frog pose here. So if you have any kind of hard surface underneath you and you want some additional padding, use one of your blankets under the knees. And we'll start to slide the knees wide. And again, we're listening in to where the edge presents itself in the inner leg. And the shins can be angled in for kind of a, I almost prefer that. It's just a little gentler experience on the knee joint. You can also have them perpendicular to the femur bone, whatever feels best for you. So we're all gonna want something different. And before we come right in, start to just walk your torso over to the front of your mat. So feel, and you'll feel the opposite side adductor, and even psoas. And just breathe into that inner thigh experience. Good. And then come through center and walk your torso over in the other direction. And feel the opposite inner thigh. And then come straight to center. And here, knee, hip, and knee are on one straight line-ish. And if you want a block for under the head, that can be really nice. Again, it can help relax the neck and the occiput and trapezius. And if there's just too much sensation to really work with here, you can take the block under the solar plexus too, which can just take a little bit of edge off, or prop it high enough until it will do that for you. So any of these variations. And then again, we'll slowly organize our bones. And then with eyes closed, we'll start to again drop into the meditation of the pose itself and feel the waves of sensation as they arise. And keep dropping and softening and investigating what's beneath and behind. to wherever there is feeling, whether it's physical or emotional, whether it's a thought pattern that's running, just breathe into it. Good. And then slowly slide any props that you have out of the way so that as efficiently as you can, you just lay down in a gigantic X. Oh. And feel that flood of what's fascinating. Feel the lymph and the blood, the prana. Feel it flush through the pelvis, the legs. Feel the heart. Feel as you hug down into the ground. Just that awareness of this body on this planet, circumnavigating this sun and this universe among so many. Just pan out for a moment to see into what is the bigger, vaster truth. Ah, good. And then very slowly gather your limbs in, and we'll come to rest on our mat. So you all know you can always take Shavasana belly down, which I love sometimes if I'm needing deep grounding. Otherwise, lay on your back and maybe place a blanket or something of weight. No matter how small, it just still helps us feel that sense of containment, of grounding. And shoulders away from the ears and arms to the side of you, the chin just gently tucked. And let yourself feel the ground. So this probably takes the metaphor a little bit too far, but hell, I was never one that colored in the lines. If you think of broccoli and the florets and then the stalk, it's proportionally, it's so big and houses this beautiful blooming verdant top. This trunk of a tree, of our inner life, of broccoli, that place that is stable and quiet and calm. The place that knows when we get deeply quiet and away from the voices that are vying for our attention. Just let yourself start to notice how beautiful it can be. Like walking deep into the forest, so quiet, pristine. And lay here on your back or your belly and just feel the ground, both literal and internal, the ground in you. That is your constant, and you're always, and you are forever. And rest in that together now. Shavasana. Slowly let the awareness rise. Bend one elbow and then the other. Place the palms on the torso and sense yourself. And keeping the gaze inward. In your own time, in your own way, roll first to one side for a few breaths there. And then slowly, slowly rise to a comfortable seat. Both hands palm to palm in front of your heart. And bow third eye to fingertips, sealing in this practice together tonight, all across space and time. We bow. Namaste.
What a treat. It's really nice to practice with you bunch of broccoli heads. Oh man. Wow. It's really such a pleasure. I'm just so moved to practice with y'all, and yeah, this is a great crew tonight. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.